Welcome to the Ground Pwned Podcast, a new weekly show for fans of combat sports, gaming, entertainment, and plenty more. I'm Scott Fontana, the New York Post's MMA reporter, joined by Brian Shea, the senior editor at Game Informer. Our first show is in the books, and a busy combat sports weekend is behind us. But we are back again to chat about the upcoming UFC Fight Night in London, what games we're currently playing, and some other things we're into at the moment. But first, Brian, you're coming at us from an unconventional location.
Yeah, so Scott, I figured, you're the New York Post MMA guy, and I figured I would give you the experience you are used to. And since we record this podcast remote anyway, you interview so many MMA fighters, and I've watched so many MMA interviews that I am coming at you from a car.
Yes.
Not only just a car, though, a car in Florida, following a run on a beach, taking my post-workouts, and then, also there is for extra bonus points, there's a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu gym right down the street from me. So you're basically getting the MMA experience without any of the MMA cachet.
I like this. This is great. It's definitely, it puts you in kind of in that mindset. I actually haven't done too many car interviews. It's happened. It certainly has happened. I want to say the most recent one comes to mind was Charles Oliveira.
Oh, wow.
But I don't believe he was driving. I think he was a passenger. But yeah, it's definitely different to do it this way, you and I. But we're making it work.
Yeah, it's a second show. I just happened to be on vacation with my family, so we made it work whatever way we could. And I think we're doing a pretty all right job. But we do want to acknowledge that my audio will be better next week and
definitely will
going forward.
Yeah. He doesn't sound as good, but I promise he's got good content in mind. Let me ask you though too, because obviously you're down there with your family. How is that going? Like when everyone's under one roof, obviously it's a little bit different when you're there for a day as opposed to like a week.
Oh man, so I told you that I would be on a flight when the last week's Fight Night card happened, right?
Yes.
That turned out not to be true because
Okay.
my flight was delayed first by 4 hours, then ultimately by 6 hours.
Ooh, perfect. You get to watch everything.
So I got to watch the entire UFC card. I literally called my Uber right after Ankalaev and Santos finished their business, but I kind of wish I would have gotten the call or been able to call my Uber before that fight happened, because then I could have just been like, oh yeah, everybody said it sucked. I'm glad I didn't watch it.
It wasn't as terrible as everyone kind of made it out to be. I think it came at the heels of what was a fantastic card overall.
It was a terrific card.
It was anticlimactic.
Yeah, that was one of somebody, I forget who it was that said it was an MMA media member that said that like if Ankalaev or Santos Ankalaev, I guess technically because Santos is high ranked, but if Santos Ankalaev was anything but the main event, people would have looked back at this as one of the best Fight Night cards in years, because almost every other fight on that card was incredible.
Yeah.
Or had some sort of amazing knockout or finish or something. But then because that is the taste that we got left in our mouths, we kind of were like, that kind of sucked. But ultimately, if that was the co-main event and Moraes and Yadong was the main event, that would have been incredible. And we would have been like, oh, wow, we get to go home happy.
Sometimes I give thought, I'm like, you know what? Someone should just put together like a list every week that's like, hey, did you miss the fights? Here's 5 that you should watch or something like that. So you can make your own. Because especially if you're watching these fights, there's a good chance you have ESPN Plus, which means you have access to the on-demand fights that happened over the weekend. So you can just cherry pick. I want to go watch Santos Ankalaev again, which I don't know why you would when there's better choices. There's better.
Your
choices.
mind is playing tricks on you.
Like we said, it's not the worst, but it's definitely I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it. I wouldn't put it on that list that I'm talking about.
Was it the worst fight on that card?
Maybe it might have been.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like the rest of the card was
it might have
good.
been. There's a good chance it was, especially, you factor in the fact that it was longer too. I think if that had somehow been, we're talking about it like, oh, if it wasn't the main event. Well, if it wasn't the main event on a fight night, it would have been a 3-rounder. And if it was a 3-rounder, it would have ended much sooner. And we would have had kind of that high spot in the middle of the fight. It would have been round 2 would be the middle where Thiago Santos knocked him down. And that actually would have been a split decision. That's how that would have gone down.
But also we're also doing some kind of gymnastics here, because they also would not have had to conserve their energy, so they might have been going for it a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible, but of
mean, that's
course,
like
any
the
variable
age-old thing
changes
of,
the
like,
entire fight, right?
Yeah, that's the age-old thing, though, of like, all right, well, could you imagine if like Gaethje and Chandler was 5 rounds? Like, yeah, but they wouldn't have been going at it as hard as they were. So
Would
it's
they
kind of the
though? That's a
reverse.
good question because Michael Chandler isn't necessarily known for conserving for the later rounds.
I mean, didn't Gaethje even say like he was glad that it was a 3-round fight because of? I feel like I heard one of the fighters say like they were glad it was a 3-round fight so they could just leave it all out in the just leave it all out in the octagon for those 3 rounds.
Oh, it definitely takes the pressure off. So yeah, once you add rounds, no matter what their style is, it's definitely going to change the way they approach it. But someone like Chandler, he does spend a lot of that gas tank early, and traditionally because he's been in a lot of 5-round fights back in Bellator. So
yeah, for sure. But I will say that remember when we were talking about the preview of this card and like the weekend in general, we were talking about what fight's going to be the most exciting. I think I incorrectly picked Santos Ankalaev. You picked Bernal Boric.
Yes, the Bellator main event. That I would say I think I was right. I felt good about that.
You were absolutely correct. But I also said that Santos Ankalaev was the worst fight on that main card, and I think I was pretty vindicated in that regard. I said that I would have rather had Moraes and Yadong as the main event than Santos Ankalaev.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I think we came out looking pretty all right on that one, even though I chose the absolute wrong answer for what would be the best main event.
Well, look, you don't cover the sport, you cover gaming, and you know gaming better than I do, so you're definitely going to get things. And I'm kidding. I'm not arrogant like that, but
we also had some predictions in the gaming realm as well. We were talking about the state of play that happened by the time our show aired, but we recorded before that happened. Your prediction was God of War. My prediction was Silent Hill.
My prediction was God of Wrong.
It sure was. And but we did get something pretty awesome in its place, which I think we were both super psyched about. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, which, oh, baby.
Cowabunga.
Yeah. I mean, so
pumped.
13 retro games, including like the original NES game. With I think they all have save states and rewind functionality, and
so this way I can make it through the swimming level, and I can just save every time I make it through little places, because that level is the worst. Like if you're not old enough to have played that game, especially when you were a kid, I mean that level is just atrocious.
Yeah, it's terrible. I never beat it as a kid, but there are 13 games in this collection, which is a dream come true. There's 3 versions of the Tournament Fighters games. So there's the NES, Genesis, and SNES versions, all of which are drastically different. I don't know if you played those games growing up. I'm assuming you did.
SNES version, yeah.
Same here. Yep, 100%. Then you have 2 versions of Turtles in Time. You have the arcade version, the SNES version, both of which I am extremely well versed in.
The SNES collection or version of Turtles in Time is significantly better.
Yes, I played the hell out of the SNES version. I remember getting it for Christmas one year, and my life was never the same. But then all the Game Boy games, all the NES games. So you have the 1989 arcade game, including the NES version. And then you have Manhattan Project, which I think is an underrated brawler.
I love Manhattan Project. That I got for my birthday one year, and that was probably my main Turtles game, because I had Nintendo for a while before I got Super Nintendo, and I played that just all the time. And actually, in just a couple of years ago, because I still had the box. The box that it came in. I didn't have the game anymore. I sold that a while ago, but the box was lying around, and I'm like, oh, it's in pretty decent shape. Let's see what this is selling for on eBay. And it was going for $100. So I said, let's give it a shot. Let's sell some cardboard for $100.
Wow.
And I sold cardboard for $100.
Holy hell.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I don't understand why people will pay that for this kind of thing. It wasn't pristine either. You wouldn't put this in the museum and say, wow, it's so well preserved. It's yeah, it's a pretty good shape. It didn't get crushed. Nobody stepped on it.
Because here's what happened.
Crazy.
Here's what happened. Everybody through the N64 era would just take the boxes and throw them away. And now in this time of the retro games bubble being what it is, people are desperate for those boxes. So that's why you are selling a piece of cardboard for $100.
I guess that's true.
They want it to look beautiful on their shelves, so they probably have a whole lineup of games, and they're like, "Oh man, I'm missing the box for Manhattan Project," and then, which in retrospect isn't a great title, but I get it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I get the reference. I didn't get it as a kid.
Yeah, no, neither did I.
We weren't learning about the nuclear bombs and how they were made back then.
Yeah. So so that's why, because people want their retro gaming collection to be amazing.
I also sold later on, or probably around the same time. It was a box for, and understand when I bring up this property, this intellectual property, I really actually like despise it in every way. I had a Power Rangers toy box as well. It was for like the whole Megazord, not the original one, but like the second one that were the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So I hate the Power Rangers again with like a fiery passion, mostly because I blame them for the downfall of the Ninja Turtles as a property that everybody loved. I have a lot of passion.
That's 100% fair.
Thank you. I'm glad I feel vindicated in that, because
however,
I get a lot of
Power
heat and making fun of from my friends and everything like that, because they know. And I've brought up before, but yeah, so I sold that box for like $40 as well.
Oh, nice.
I mean,
I always went from Ninja Turtles to Power Rangers. Like that was kind of my trajectory, but I also was like kind of bummed that I was like, I can like more than one thing. Why does like why do the Turtles have to take like a hit in order for the Power Rangers to succeed?
Yeah.
So I was like bummed that the Turtles kind of went on a downward trajectory after the Power Rangers came out.
And not only that, but like the popularity of the Power Rangers necessitated that the Turtles try to come back with like sort of a Power Rangers-esque feel to it. I guess it was, trying to mimic the movies too, but with like the next mutation, which is just an abomination. I basically don't acknowledge it. I will here just to say that I hate it, but
that was basically when I fell off of my turtle fandom.
Yeah, that's fair. That chased you away.
Turtle fandom. I will say that I almost teared up when I went to the movie theaters and saw the animated TMNT movie.
Okay.
Just because
2012 is it? Or no, it was longer ago than that. It was like 06.
Yeah, I think 2006 or 7 maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. But my brother was of like the perfect age to go see it. And because he's 7.5 years younger than me.
Okay.
And I took him to the theaters and I was like, let's go see a Ninja Turtles movie. That was like my favorite when I was a kid. And we watched it. And like, I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Because the intro of that is just them running along the rooftops. And I was like, this is so sick. Like, this is like, it's modern computer animated graphics, and I was like so in on that, and it just like hit me right in the nostalgia. And like the movie was good, it wasn't amazing.
It's
but, like,
acceptable. I think the whole storyline with Leonardo and Raphael is fantastic.
That's the only thing that I'm like, that was incredible. Everything else I was like, that's fine. And then I loved the hint at the end. Spoiler alert. I think we've hit the statute of limitations.
I think we're past that. Yeah, I think we can do it.
They teased Shredder coming in a sequel, and I'm like, yes, let's do it. And then they never did a sequel.
Nope.
But like, I was like, that was good enough to get a sequel. Like, if the Michael Bay movie was good enough to get a sequel, why can't that one?
Because someone was willing to fund it. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
That's true.
I think Michael Bay probably was like, yeah, well, I'll put it out there. Why not? But going back all the way back to the Cowabunga collection, there's something. The turtle games like really are a special part of like my childhood. Obviously, we're big turtle fanatics. I think I don't know if that's really come across just yet, but like Turtles really was, especially for me, it was a gigantic part of my childhood. I'm looking at the Turtle Van right now. Actually, the DVD collection contained within the Turtle Van, that one that came out about 10 years ago. I'm staring at it right now. It was I had to have that one. My kids come down and they'll look at it and they're like, oh, that's fun. Can we play with it? I'm like, no. but Turtles in Time in particular, the arcade version, which is, again, inferior to the Super Nintendo one. But when we go down to the arcade, for, maybe, Gen Z and stuff like that, they have no concept of how we used to do things, right? Back in our day. But I would go down with my best buddy. He was when we were just starting to become best buddies, and we just played that as much as we could. And that was kind of like a bonding experience between somebody who I'm still friends with today. So that's a really special game to me. So I'm really, really excited to play it with him. I texted him right after you texted me about this because I missed it. You told me. And I texted him. I'm like, we're playing this online together. He's like, yeah, we are. So we're super pumped.
Yeah, we neglected to mention that actually, because I mentioned the other features that it comes with, the modernizing features, but online play is a huge one. It's for most of the games you can play online with people.
I can't wait. We'll have to play together too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in. Especially since
which one should we run through first, though? That's the question.
Well, here's the thing, though. Even though it's inferior overall, we might need to play the arcade Turtles in Time, because I don't know if the SNES version is going to support 4-player, because that original version only supports 2-player.
That's true. My thought, though, was that you and I should go all the way to the original arcade TMNT.
I'm in.
Because I think that one, I've beaten it before myself, but I don't think I've ever beaten it like with the camaraderie of a team.
God, it's been so long since I've played that version. I still play Turtles in Time every single time I go to the arcade. Like there's an arcade bar near me, and that's like my favorite place to go. And I'm just, what else do I have to do on a Friday night? So I'll just go to the arcade bar and just pump like $2 worth of tokens into either Turtles in Time or the X-Men arcade machine or something like that. And
excellent.
It's always a blast every single time.
I did play it. Again, we're talking about I'm talking about the original arcade version. I played that on my own there was a Mortal Kombat anniversary event in Manhattan. This was, I don't know, it was around the time Mortal Kombat, not 11, Mortal Kombat X came out. Yeah, I think it was when Mortal Kombat X came out, and they were doing like an anniversary thing there, and it was again, it's kind of a similar thing. It was called Barcade. That's what they have kind of in this area. I don't know what they have out by you in Minneapolis, but I'm in New Jersey. This was New York, New Jersey. So
it's certainly not Barcade, because we used that term, and Barcade actually reached out to us and told us to stop using that unless it's a Barcade property.
Nice. But yeah, so we went there, or I went there, and they gave a bunch of tokens. They're just like, here, go play whatever. And I'm like, everyone's like, oh, I want to play Mortal Kombat. I'm like, I want to go play Ninja Turtles. So I went and played that by myself, and I'm like, I'm playing this all the way through, and I did. It was
Hell
fantastic to have finally beaten it.
It's such a great game. Like both the 1989 arcade game and Turtles in Time are just formative gaming experiences in my life. Also, to a lesser extent, the NES games, especially the original NES game, just because that's like the first time I was like, oh, games can be hard. Okay. Or, in that case, just almost flat out broken. But
yeah, kind of was.
That was also why Donatello was my favorite turtle for a while, was the NES game, because you could just cheese several bosses because he had the bow.
Yep. And
you could have much longer reach with him. So you could just jump up on a platform and just put a down attack, and it would hit enemies they couldn't hit you. And I think it might be Bebop is like the boss that you could just cheese to death in that with Donnie.
See, that's a game I never did beat. There's no way I beat that one. So I would actually be interested to just see that through to completion, just to see what it's like. I think we got very far one time, although it's possible, and I really don't know the answer to this. It's possible Game Genie was involved.
It's probable. Let's be honest.
Anyone who remembers Game Genie, by the way, we have. There's something special about our experience in life. I think you, me, and anyone else who's listening. If you had Game Genie, or you accessed Game Genie, maybe you borrowed it from Blockbuster or your local video or game rental store. It was something.
It was how I enjoyed Sonic 3 the most. Like I would put on, you'd only need one blue sphere in order to get the Chaos Emerald. I would put on, you don't lose rings when you get hit. So you get hit and the rings would go flying, but you wouldn't have your ring counter go back down to 0, and you could just pick up those rings. And
so you just get more and more.
Yeah, you just kept getting more and more. And then I got all 7 Chaos Emeralds using that super quick one sphere trick.
Okay.
And then I would suddenly be able to play the entire game pretty much as Supersonic.
Oh, that's
and it was
awesome.
Incredible. It was so much fun to just hack that game until it was completely broken. So I mean, that's basically like retro hacking and modding, basically, right?
Yeah,
like
that's really what it was. Yeah, for consoles. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a formative thing for me as well. Like I would create this tower of death, basically. So I would put my Sega Genesis, I would have Game Genie, on top of that Sonic and Knuckles, and then on top of that Sonic 3.
Okay, yeah, that's a high stack.
It was the high stack.
Be careful with playing Jenga near that.
There's actually a whole like inside joke at Sega that is about that. And when they put out the Genesis video, like the classic console.
Okay.
They sent me along like a model of I don't know if they had a Game Genie in it, but they did have, they sent like a Sega CD and a 32X that you stack the Genesis inside of those.
Yes.
So it was just creating like this tower, and then they sent a Sonic and Knuckles, and then on top of that a Sonic 3, like a fake cartridge. So you could just create like this Frankenstein's monster, like a lot of people did back then. And I forget what it was called. It was like I think they called it like the Tower of Sonic or something like that. And it was just this monstrosity that they were able to send us a recreation of for the Genesis Mini collection.
That is fun.
That actually segs directly into what I'm currently playing. Because I'm on the road right now. I don't really have my finger on the pulse of the games industry, unfortunately, because, fortunately, it's by design. I am intentionally avoiding a lot of the games industry news.
That's okay. You got to do that sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been playing a little bit of Pokemon Legends Arceus, but that is not what segs directly into this. Sonic Mania. We're talking nostalgia. We're talking Sonic. We're talking Genesis. This is a throwback in every sense of the word. I reviewed it for us back when it first came out. I loved it. And, it's only gotten better through the Sonic Mania Plus DLC or collection, whichever way you ended up purchasing it.
What is the Plus stuff? Because I was kind of curious about that when it came out, but I never really partook.
So it added a new mode where basically it rotated you through characters each life. And then also it added 2 new playable characters. So Ray the Flying Squirrel and Mighty the Armadillo. So now you can play as Sonic and Tails, Knuckles, Tails alone, Ray, or Mighty.
I don't even know who those 2 are. I'm not as big into Sonic versus you are.
So Ray and Mighty appeared in Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, which was a Japanese arcade machine that used like a trackball, almost like the bowling games do, or Golden Tee.
That's an interesting way to play a Sonic game. I like that.
So yeah, you roll it the direction you want them to run, and it's like an obstacle course you're running through. I actually got to play it for the first time at that arcade bar I was telling you about. They got a cabinet, and I was like, oh my god, I've always wanted to play this, and yeah, it was kind of underwhelming, but
okay. Interesting concept. I'm sure it was let's give it a shot.
Do you remember Knuckles Chaotix on the 32X?
No.
Okay, so that was a game that was just like Knuckles spin-off for the 32X.
I didn't know he had a spin-off. Interesting. Yeah, tell me more.
And do you remember Vector the Crocodile and Charmy Bee? They've appeared in subsequent Sonic games. They all made their debuts there.
Maybe, yeah.
But Mighty the Armadillo also came back as part of this team that Knuckles is heading up. And basically they're trying to take down this basically Metal Sonic got the Chaos Emeralds, and he's this overpowered monstrosity now, and you're trying to take him down. It's not a very good game. They use this mechanic where it's 2 characters running around at once, and they're tethered by rings, and they have almost like a tethering system. It's not great. It's it's the first Strand game. It's the first Strand game. Kojima was wrong. It's not Death Stranding. It's
No BTs there though.
No BTs, no. But anyway, Sonic Mania, I tweeted about this earlier this week, but I was playing it and I was like, man, everybody always likes to talk crap about Sonic, about how he's only good when he's running full speed ahead, and then you run into a death pit, or you get hit by spikes or something that you just could not have possibly reacted to. And I think Sonic Mania proves that is incorrect. All that the criticism is being levied at is poor level design, which, yes, the Sonic series has had so much of that, especially post 2000. But then also the platforming in Sonic Mania is so precise. I was enjoying the slow moments as much as I was enjoying the super speed moments, because the team that put together Sonic Mania, which was, for lack of a better word, they were just fans of the franchise who also...
That's what I had gathered of it, yeah.
Yeah, so Christian Whitehead led them up, and then Pagoda West, Headcanon, and then they had T. Lopes come in and do the soundtrack. And basically he just re-recorded a bunch of the classic versions and basically remixed a bunch of them and recorded a bunch of them from scratch. And he did such a great job with that soundtrack. But these guys, Christian Whitehead was also well known for doing a lot of the mobile ports, and basically he created his own engine from the ground up to emulate the original Sonic engine, but it even plays better than those. So he is just the greatest thing that's happened to Sonic in a long time, I feel like, because I would love to see him get another crack, because that was one of my main complaints about Sonic Mania was it's, I think, 60-40 ratio of greatest hits levels versus all new levels, and I would love to see him do an all original level.
You want to see them sink their teeth into really kind of making their own stamp on it.
Yeah, because their original levels in Sonic Mania are incredible, and don't get me wrong, I also love the nostalgia aspect of going back and playing like remixed versions of classic levels. Like Chemical Plant Zone never gets old, aside from the water level, the water part that rises up.
All water parts in Sonic are terrible. I'm sorry. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's where I'm at.
I would agree with 95% of that.
Okay, that's fine.
Especially if you're playing as Tails, because Tails could actually swim. If you're playing standalone Tails.
Really?
Yeah, he can swim underwater. Because instead of flying, so when you do a double jump, instead of flying, he swims. So it has a little bit more verticality there. So it opens up a whole new dimension. But yes,
let's go back to 2 sometime. Yeah.
Water levels suck on Sonic, and they suck slightly less in Mario. But yes,
I don't hate them in Mario.
Are usually bad.
I don't hate them in Mario. I don't know why. Like, they don't bother me as much as I would think they should.
I don't know. I just don't think they need to exist.
You know what? I will give you that, especially in the original Ninja Turtles NES game.
Yes. See, all comes back to Ninja Turtles.
Moral of the story is swimming and video games don't mix. Echo the Dolphin? Does that work? I don't know.
I guess. I mean, that game also that was the game that I got with my Genesis alongside Sonic 2. And I will fully admit that outside of just being fun swimming around, that game kind of sucks.
Yeah, I tried to play it recently because I got the Genesis. What do they call that again? You mentioned it before that.
It's just the Genesis Mini, I think.
Yeah, the Genesis Mini. I got that one as well for Christmas a couple years ago whenever it was out. And I was playing Echo, and I'm like, I'm trying to go places, and I don't really know what I'm supposed to do here. It was unclear what I was supposed to be doing, so I didn't really go very far, and I just stopped playing. But yeah, that was a weird one.
It's one of those games where it's like the core gameplay mechanics are super fun, but the design is not super conducive to like compel you to keep pushing forward.
Speaking of weird level design in Sega games, way back, here's a little anecdote from my past. Way back, one of my buddies had gotten it was one of the Jurassic Park games. It was the second one. I think it was called Rampage Edition or something like that. And so we were playing as a raptor, because you could play as either the raptor or you could play as, I think, Dr. Grant. As we were playing as the raptor, we're trying to make our way.
You play as the raptor.
What's that? Oh yeah, you got to. By the way, I'm a Toronto Raptors basketball fan too. So if you want to know where I stand on sports, that's my basketball team. 2019 champions.
So wait. Is that because of your love of Jurassic Park, or is that okay?
Yes, of course it is. I was a 8-year-old kid or 10-year-old kid when they came out. So I'm like, well, that's my team now, and I've stuck with them. So yeah, I'm a weird sports fan. I don't root for any local teams. But to get back to the game, we're working our way through. It was like some sort of warehouse type level, and we were getting stuck. We couldn't figure out where we're supposed to be going, and we called the helpline, because you remember they used to have those helplines.
Yeah, the Nintendo Power. Or no, it would be the Nintendo
it was Sega.
Power
Yeah, so I don't remember. It might have been like particularly for whoever was the developer on that game, or maybe it was. Did Sega have their own? I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember Sega. I mean, I'm assuming they did, because they kind of did a lot of stuff that Nintendo was doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And whoever we called some sort of official line that was in the instruction book, and they were trying to talk us through it, trying to explain what to do. And I don't know if we weren't explaining it well enough, because we were kids. We were probably, I would say we were like 9, 10 years old. I mean, you know, someone's older brother might have been there and was like a little older. But yeah, we're trying to get through, and they never really solved the problem for us. So I haven't gone back and played that. I don't know how I would other than through emulation or something, but I haven't gone back and played it. But as far as I can tell, it's an unplayable game. If you are listening and you know for a fact that you can work your way through this level, I would love for you to explain it to me, or even just shoot me a YouTube video that shows me doing it.
By the way,
suffice.
We actually had a feature. My colleague over at Game Informer, Blake Hester, he did a giant feature on what it was like to work at the Nintendo Power version of that. So it was called the Nintendo Power Hotline.
Sure, yeah.
And it was fascinating. If you have any experience with that whatsoever, like, I would say go give that a read. Not to do like a shameless plug in the middle of the podcast, but
no, that's fine.
I loved reading that so much, and since it's topical of what we're talking about, it was like it's so cool, like such a cool peek into like, this is a call center, but it's so much cooler than just like if AT&T or like Verizon was having a call center, you know?
There was a peek into that in, I forget what the name of the Netflix documentary is about the video games. It was
High Score.
Yeah, High Score. Thank you. In one of the episodes, they do kind of peek into that one, right?
I think they do very briefly.
Yeah, it's a little bit, but that's I didn't actually call that number when I was a kid. I never called the helplines or anything like that. So that was even a little taste of what it was. I didn't realize there was like more to it than that. So it was kind of neat to learn. But yeah, I should check that out. You're right. That's a good shout out. I don't mind shouting, especially anyone else's work. If you see anybody else's work, maybe they'll listen then after we start doing it. We start plugging everybody's work. They'll become listeners.
Absolutely. And I will say that speaking of like people's work, like I was listening to a podcast that you and I both love, the Co-Main Event podcast.
Yes, great podcast.
And we're talking about they I think it was on their Patreon Power Hour, which is their show every Friday. And a listener wrote in with stats about like the 5-round fights since like 2020, I want to say.
Okay.
And I'm not going to give like incorrect stats because like they were very precise with how they were like tracking, like, all right, here's the number of fights that the winner of the first round of a 5-round fight ended up winning. And it was like the overwhelming majority of like the person who won the first round ended up winning the entire fight. And the number of finishes in rounds 4 or 5 were so marginal, so slim. And like, there were only like a few of them. And one of them was counting, Petr Yan fouling Aljamain Sterling. And it was like, I was just listening to that and I was like, this is like 5-round fights sound like completely unnecessary when you look at it through this lens. But then also like, it could go back further and you could, the bigger the sample size, obviously the more diverse the data might be. But that was just a fascinating thing for me with like talking about like the Santos Ankalaev fight. Like, yeah, do we really need 2 more rounds of that? I don't know.
It's a good question. When we're talking about fight nights where UFC's just oftentimes, I don't think this actually was kind of put together with a little bit of love. I feel like this card. But a lot of fight nights are just kind of cobbled together and they're like, let's get 2 guys or 2 women up there who I guess people know that hopefully there's something, but otherwise it's going to be a bunch of people off the, regional circuit or off the Dana White Contender Series who are on 10 deals, 10 to win, 10 to show deals. So yeah, it begs the question, why are we doing a 5-rounder for this fight that realistically we would put on any other card and it would only be 3 rounds? It's just kind of, so I can understand the question there. I guess my answer to that would be just give us more compelling main events that they deserve 5 rounds. I'm not necessarily of the belief that we scale back from 5 rounds to 3-round main events. I just want more important fights to headline.
That is absolutely fair. And I guess before we put a bow on last weekend's card, because we don't want to dwell too much on it, everybody's moved on already. But where do you see Ankalaev going from here? Because everybody was like, oh, this guy's a championship trajectory. And I still think he does. But I don't know if he gets a title shot off that performance.
I don't think he gets a title shot off the performance. There's enough guys out there. There's some fights coming up as well that I think are going to shape the way the division is going to go. So we'll have to see kind of how that shakes out. But I would have to think he is not very high on their list of contenders. I think a number of reasons, the fact that, yes, this performance was a little lackluster in terms of interest, especially like there's no debating that everyone came away from that fight, disinterested at the very least in watching another fight of Magomed Ankalaev very soon. It just wasn't the most appealing thing. So it's not like there's any fan push out there. There's not going to be a lot of promotional push, I don't think, especially now in the current, fair or unfair. There's a very anti-Russia sentiment going on. So you'd have to think that might influence some of their decision making, that kind of thing going around a little bit. I don't know if that really will. It'd be interesting to see what they do, but I don't think it would be Magomed Ankalaev. And then actually that segues pretty neatly into this coming weekend where there is a fight headlined by a Russian fighter, Alexander Volkov, who there is kind of a question as of Wednesday morning when we're recording this. Will he actually be headlining against Tom Aspinall because of a lot of things where I don't know where he is in the world? Is he in Russia right now? He's in London. All right. So we'll have to see kind of what happens here. But apparently there is a backup.
Oh,
that is something that I believe Tom Aspinall said earlier. I just saw that on Twitter this morning. So yeah, That would be interesting if something changes there, because this would be a weird situation to have a new replacement fighter.
Yeah, and speaking of cards that are put together with love, this is their first time in London since the pandemic started.
Yes, that first one was the one of the first cards canceled was the one that was in London for 2020.
Yeah,
and it was supposed to be
Woodley
and Leon Edwards. That's right. And they were trying to scramble to make it work. They ended up moving it from London to try and get it over to Vegas, but then they couldn't get Leon Edwards out of England in time, I guess it was. So they're just like, all right, maybe we just don't do this now. And then obviously they took a little break while the world figured itself out and while UFC got shut down trying to do things on Indian casinos and all this stuff. So yeah, that was a good call not to go there.
Shout out to Tachi Palace.
Yeah, Tachi Palace fights used to have some fun regional fights. They were like the original home to North American flyweights. I used to watch Ian McCall was on there, Daryl Montague, these Dustin Ortiz, these kind of guys were coming up through Tachi at the time. So that was an interesting way to watch. I want to say even Jussier Formiga made his way over to Tachi at one point. I think he did. Huh. So yeah, that was a cool place for that. I've never been to this casino.
I'm just looking. I'm scrolling down this card again. I'm on my phone, so I'm kind of looking at the weird mobile version on ESPN.
All right,
this is a pretty solid card from top to bottom. Obviously the main event we talked about, Aspinall, huge up and comer in the heavyweight division.
I'm interested in him.
Big test for him if the Volkov matchup does end up happening. I think it's going to happen, but you never know.
I hope it does. My fingers are crossed that it does work out, because let these guys fight.
And also that'd be huge for him to get a win like that in London.
Yes.
Think about all the big star making performances in people's hometown, like Stipe in Cleveland, Connor in Ireland. These are all things that have the potential to really skyrocket a person's star potential.
Especially with a lot of energy in that building, one would think.
Oh, yeah. This is the first show that they've seen in more than 2 years. So, yeah, they are.
First UFC show. They love their Cage Warriors over there.
But, yeah, the UFC kind of brings a different energy, I feel like.
It depends. I will tell you this. I don't know how much you watch Cage Warriors. There's a lot of passion there because they get a lot of locals on that one. And a lot of those guys, everyone knows they go on to the UFC. That's where Connor came from.
Yep.
So it's definitely a Patty Pimblett, who's also on this card. Same kind of deal. A lot of these guys come up that way. So yeah, but obviously there is a different level of promotional power that goes behind this. They can, hype it up a lot more. You are getting a higher caliber athlete in there, and they are stacking it with a lot of locals. Tom Aspinall, Arnold Allen, Patty Pimblett, of course, we mentioned. Gunnar Nelson is very popular out there. He's from Iceland. Molly McCann is beloved there as well. Who else we got? I'm checking the flags out on Tapology. Mike Grundy. Paul Craig, of course, the Scot. Yes. My grandmother is Scottish, so I'm much more interested in Scottish fighters than I would be the general average fighter.
Nathaniel Wood,
absolutely.
Jai Herbert.
Yeah, Nathaniel Wood. By the way, did you see that photo of him from earlier this week?
God, I've never seen anybody that shredded right now.
I think it was. Oh God, I want to say it was a Smoogie. On MMA. He's an excellent follow. I want to say he said something like, it might have been him, said, he gets a paper cut, he's done. See, there's almost no water on him. It was really, is gross a bad thing to say? I don't know. It looked a little gross.
Here's the thing. I want to know what his current, maybe not current, I don't know, maybe he's rehydrated or something, but I want to know what his body fat percentage is in that photo.
Is it 0?
There's
is it 0? Can you have that?
I don't know if there's a way that he survives with 0% body fat.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, it's
pretty
weird.
Close, though, I feel like.
Weird photo. Jack Shore, too. Welshman. Cora McKenna, another Welsh woman. Is that Welsh woman? Is that what they would call it?
I guess.
I don't know. I'm not sure what the nomenclature there. But yeah, just about every fight on this card has someone local on there. There is a Russian versus Russian heavyweight bout, though. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. Abdurrahimov and Pavlovich.
Yeah, it's not going to be an interesting fight to me. It has nothing to do with the world's climate. That one doesn't really pique me.
Yeah, but almost ever. I mean, Krylov versus Craig should be a pretty good banger.
Yeah, and Nikita Krylov, a Ukrainian.
Yeah,
so
he is.
I'd be interested to see what kind of reaction he gets there, just because of the world sentiment and that kind of thing. But of course, he's fighting a Scot, and I don't know how the Englishmen feel about that. They'll probably root for Ukraine.
Yeah, I don't know, because
what do I know?
Like, yeah, we'll have to see how it all plays out. But I'm excited for this card. I get back from my vacation Friday night, so I'll have a chance to watch this in the comfort of my own home.
Just like the last one.
Yeah, just like the last one, which I did not intend.
You just won't be waiting to get out on the plane.
Yeah, exactly. I won't be like checking my watch every round of the main event.
Yeah. I would say the one guy who I'm most interested in watching fight this weekend is Arnold Allen, because Dan Hooker's a really good test for him. He fought differently when he was at 145 pounds. Will he be better now? I don't know. He's coming on a losing streak, so that's kind of an interesting dynamic here. He's losing, so he's like, I guess I'll move down. Will he be better there? I don't know. But Arnold Allen is someone who I've had my eye on for a little while. He's winning a lot of fights. I would like to see if he wins this fight. I really think he ought to be in like the very short list. Maybe not for a title shot, but like give the guy a more contenders bout. I think he's got to fight somebody important. Maybe maybe even the loser of the featherweight title fight next month. If it ends up being Chan Sung Jung, that would be fine. I think that makes some sense. But we'll see. He's obviously got to take care of business. Hooker's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, looking at his last three fights, Melendez, Lentz, and Yusuf all wins, but they're all by decision. So how the UFC likes its finishes, but
they do. But once you get to a certain point with like the number of wins he's got, and the fact that I think they can market somebody who's hails from a country with some passion. So if he comes out of this with any sort of momentum, that's going to help him a lot.
Yeah, and that's a tough draw for Dan Hooker, who is he's been on a run of tough draws.
Yes, but I think he wants it that way. He's a fighter, man.
He is. Yeah, he comes from that CKB gym, so it's just like, but man, like just looking at his last 5 fights, Makhachev, obviously we saw how that went. He beat Hack Paras, lost to Michael Chandler, lost to Dustin Poirier, and beat Paul Felder. Like those are just killers that he is fighting.
He is very much in the sink or swim business, and he's had mixed results, but I think he's gained a lot of respect. We have a lot of respect for him because he's had these fights that he's had.
Oh, for sure. Like, I mean, whenever Dan Hooker's on a card, I'm watching. Like, yes. That's the thing about him. Like, a lot of those CKB guys are that way. But, like, whenever I see Dan Hooker on a card, I circle that fight in my head.
And don't forget, 2 years ago, the pandemic year, he had one fight pre-pandemic and one fight post-pandemic. Well, post beginning of pandemic and mid-pandemic. I don't know. But both of those fights, the Paul Felder fight and the Dustin Poirier fight, those were 2 of the contenders for fight of the year.
Oh, the Dustin Poirier fight was just a banger.
I thought that was. I didn't think it was fight of the year. Actually, I still put Zhang Weili's win over Joanna Jędrzejczyk from that year too. That I put above, but it was so close.
Yeah, Weili versus Jędrzejczyk. I don't know if anything tops that. That may be a top 5 fight all time.
Probably is. God, maybe one day we'll figure out a list. We're not doing that today, though. I'm not ready.
Poirier Hooker was right up there with it, though. Like that was top 3 that year for sure.
For sure, absolutely. I remember watching that fight because it was in New Zealand, in his native New Zealand, and it was a split decision. I think if you go back and watch that, I think it's easier to give the fight to Paul Felder, but I think it's defensible to give the fight to Dan Hooker based on the way that you score rounds. But I remember just being jacked up about it after I watched it. And then that was the same night that Deontay Wilder lost to Tyson Fury the first time when he came out wearing like the shredder armor, for lack of a better description. So I went and watched that fight too. So it was all about fighting. I was on the MMA train and then I was on the boxing train that night. So it was a very memorable combat sports night.
Yeah, I mean that. Every once in a while, we get those nights where it's just like there's so much going on. And kind of tying this all back, who Hooker also beat?
Who's that?
Actually, no, not Hooker.
I have his record up here right now, but I'm curious who you're talking about.
Allen beat Mads Burnell.
Oh, Allen. Oh, yeah. Okay. So
Sorry, I said the wrong name. I was looking at the
yeah,
matchup.
you tripped me up. Yes, Masvidal. I saw that as well. I mean, Masvidal, I think that win has aged very well. He never really should have been let go by the UFC. Masvidal, I think they pulled the trigger a little too quick with a guy like him of his talent level.
There's a few of those.
Sure, there are, and look, the way they do things is they're sometimes just going to pull the trigger for one reason or another, whether it's, they're just not willing to stick around. Maybe someone makes too much money. I don't know what it was in Masvidal's situation, but they make mistakes from time to time. It's not like it actually, I would compare it to like in the NFL when a team gives up on a player, because the league doesn't give up on players unless, either there's a massive problem or a massive public backlash they don't want to deal with.
And then the UFC picks up that player and then holds on to them for way, way too long, unlike Mads Burnell.
I don't know who you're talking about. We don't need to name whoever that is, though.
The real fighters get cut easily, but the former NFL stars that were exiled from the league, they hold on forever until it's just impossible not to cut them.
Whoever that individual is, I'm sure they're a terrible person, and I don't even want to talk about them. But I like that we're at least referencing that, because it's important to reference it. Whoever that is, whoever that may be.
Yeah, I don't know who we're talking about either. I was just throwing out a hypothetical.
It's very hypothetical. It sounds like you made it up, but interesting scenario. I like it. I like where your head's at. So you mentioned before, by the way, I kind of want to go back to games a little bit, just because you're out of the games loop, but I think we could still talk about some fun things related to what is going on in gaming right now. And the one thing that kind of caught my eye was the release this week of Grand Theft Auto 5 for current gen consoles, which is now the third generation of consoles that Grand Theft Auto 5 has been released for. I never thought this game would have the staying power, but obviously the online element of it has really kept it alive.
Yeah, and I mean that's what keeps driving it forward. Like if GTA Online didn't exist and wasn't as popular as it is, we would not be getting this across 3 generations, I don't think. Or
we would have had GTA
they've already
6 years ago, right?
Well, they already said that GTA 6. Well, they didn't say GTA 6. They said the next GTA game, right, which should be GTA 6, is in development right now, which obviously it was. Like, there's no way it wasn't
for a long time
for years. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's clearly a great game. It's one of the. Is it the top? It's not the top selling game if you count like all the different versions of Tetris and everything. But like, sure, it's one of the top selling games of all time. It continually tops the charts, and it's going to start charting again because of this new version. But yeah, it's worth the re-release, and especially given the popularity of GTA Online, it deserves to continue to be in our mainstream consciousness.
See, I don't really get into I played a little bit of the online game, and I tried to, I think when the heists were new for it, we're talking about many years ago at this point, because this was before I even had kids. I was playing this game, and we were playing with some buddies. We were trying to do one of the heists. I don't know if we ever completed it, though. It was kind of multi-step, and like the way my life works is I have weird hours. Like, it's hard to coordinate with other people. So ultimately I've decided to more or less just move away from most online play, especially in like these environments where everybody is playing all the time. I get left behind. But I really loved playing the single player of it, where you switched characters on the fly. I imagine on PS5, maybe reviews are out on this already, but I imagine on PS5, it's got to be like instantaneous switching over, from Trevor to, all the other characters.
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't dived in yet, just because I don't have my Xbox or my PlayStation with me. I only have my Switch. But yeah, I would imagine like with the solid state drive and the improved processors of the newer systems, it's got to be the performance just must be mind blowing with how fast you can switch between characters.
I would think so. Here's a question though I have for you: is it's not related necessarily to GTA 5. You can bring up 5 if you want, but I'm opening it up to all Grand Theft Auto games. What are some of your favorite memories, or maybe even some of like brutal memories? Because I have a few of those to share.
I don't really have like a specific memory aside from, I think that not my college roommate, but the guy like next door to me was playing San Andreas my freshman year, and he was screaming at the TV. It was the little like remote control drone mission. Yeah. And he was just screaming at the TV because he couldn't beat it. And the guy kept talking, and he was just like, "Shut up, you effing nerd." Yeah.
Yeah, that particular element of that game was the worst. I distinctly remember trying to play that in my friend's dorm in college. And I was like borderline on tears. at that point. My friends still remember this. It's not pretty, but
Dude,
it gets brought up. But yeah, that is the worst. That's a brutal memory. That's for
But other
sure.
than that, I would say my personal memory was just like hearing about all the reviews and of the like GTA 3. I never played GTA 3 like when it first came out, but I did grab Vice City when that came out. And
Okay.
I was working at Blockbuster at the time.
Nice. I didn't know you worked there.
Yeah, that was my first job.
Ooh,
And
we're gonna hear more about that one day.
maybe it was shortly after it came out. I was working at Blockbuster, but I remember like Vice City was like on the shelf, and I was like, I'm gonna rent it out. So because I could just rent whatever for free. So I rented it, and
Right, I didn't know that. That was
it was great. And I could rent stuff before it came out as well.
wow. My
So, like,
buddy
if we
used
got-
to work there. I'm gonna pick his brain about this now.
So like we would have to take the VHSs though, not the DVDs, because they were afraid we were going to scratch the DVDs. So we would take the VHSs,
Yeah.
and so it was cool because like the new shipments would come in on like I want to say it was like a Thursday, and then like we would get like they wouldn't be put out on the shelves until Tuesday, so we could take them home over the weekend, watch them, and then we could give the recommendations to the customers. Like, oh yeah, I rented like Adam Sandler's Anger Management, and then give like pass or skip or whatever to them, or skip or watch whatever we said. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we would give them our recommendation, and then we could tell them like, oh yeah, like it's family friendly or it's not, or yeah, just like kind of. So we had some sort of familiarity. It was a smart idea.
GTA
But
was
then-
family friendly.
GTA was not family friendly, and that's why that my memory was taking it out, and then just I didn't do it. I don't know if I did a single mission in Vice City. I just drove around and caused havoc, and that was my biggest memory of GTA. Like early on, was just like you could really do anything in this game. Like you just drive around and kill random people on the streets. You could shoot helicopters down with rocket launchers. Like that was the thing that just blew my mind and like really like opened my eyes to like what open world gaming could really be.
I did play GTA 3. And actually, there was a time where I went back. My buddy had the first two Grand Theft Autos, the ones that were top down. And I've played those, and it's a weird experience. It's not the same. But it's quality in its own way. But yeah, GTA 3, my buddy had it, and we used to go over and we would just punch in all the cheat codes, and we'd drop tanks down, and we'd do all these things. We just get as many stars as we could. Game radio was my go-to. I don't know what your go-to radio stations were in some of those games, but Game Radio had Royce the 5'9", who, by the way, is like better than ever, is my understanding, because I'm out of the loop with hip hop now, but he's had a lot more staying power than I think anyone in 2000 thought he would.
Yeah, I was always on the rock radio.
Okay.
So I'm trying to find what the name of the station was. I see it's Los Santos Rock Radio is one of them, but I don't know if there's another one. But I would just go to whatever station was playing rock. I've always been a rock guy.
Of course,
except maybe
yeah.
back
I mean,
then.
that's fine. Maybe you got the guitar in the background at home. You're not right now because you're in a car, but
yeah, right now I'm doing the UFC interview. Right now, UFC fighter interview in the car.
But you're not driving, at least. So
I'm
that
not driving. No, I am
out.
parked. I'm in one of those like underground parking spots. Not underground, but like under the house parking spots, because all the houses are up on stilts.
Yes.
In case, like floods. But yeah, it's that was always my go-to station, and they always. I would also go to the talk stations as well, because those were always hilarious.
I have two unfortunate memories though with Grand Theft Auto. Both involve losing saves. Yeah, exactly. So my GTA 3, when I did finally get the game, I'm like, all right, I want to play. And so I went around, and at one point I got far enough that I think I had opened up all 3 islands. And I was like, I'm just going to go collect hidden packages today. That's what I'm going to do. So I went all over the place, and I'm collecting hidden packages. I probably got like 70 in one sitting. It took a while, but it was like a Saturday. I didn't have anything to do. I was like, all right, I'll do that. I was a kid or a teenager, whatever. And I got them all, or I think I finished them all. Maybe I got close, but anyway, I don't remember if like I turned the game off or if there was an error or something, but I lost all my progress on that, and I never played it again.
Oh, very good.
So that was fun. I later on played it at some point, but like, yeah, that save file discontinued. I was done. I couldn't do it anymore. I'd lost the heart. And then on my PS3 with GTA 4, this was actually on a second playthrough where I think it was a second playthrough, and I was trying to beat the game again, and my PlayStation 3, and I had the 60 gigabyte backward compatible with PS2 version of the PS3. That one, Yellow Light of Death.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I lost everything on that one too. I did everything I could to try and salvage that one. I looked up how to use like I'm forgetting the what they're called now, but like the silver whatever that you would do to try and like essentially solder it and apply everything to try and fix things.
God.
And I got it to the point where I was able to get it back on again for probably all of 12 seconds, and then it died for good, and just it broke my heart. I did end up selling that one broken as advertised at one point in the last couple of years for like, I don't know, $70-$80.
Wow.
My understanding is people think they can fix them too, and maybe they can. Godspeed whoever got it. I hope they did fix it, even if they're selling it. But yeah, there's some value in your broken stuff sometimes.
Or your cardboard.
I hope you guys have cardboard lying around that's worth. I got basketball cards, baseball cards, Pokemon cards. I've got too.
Dude, my worst lost save story was Final Fantasy X. I love that game so much. One of my favorite games of all time.
Great game.
But the first time I was playing through it, I got to a boss battle and I got stuck. And I was like, all right, well, I don't want to grind anymore. I just want to keep playing through the story, whatever. So instead of just staying on that thing and grinding, this is my like first real RPG that I ever played. I was like, I'm going to start a new save file and just like relive some of like the early parts of the story. So I did that. And then I went to go save and I accidentally overwrote the save file that was like 55 hours in with my new save file. And then I was like, well, I like this game too much to not keep playing. So I actually did stop playing Half-Life 2 because I was playing that in college and my then girlfriend was talking to me and she didn't like the fact that I was continuing to play, even though in my defense, she walked into the room while I was playing and started talking to me. And I was like, I'm in the middle of something. And she unplugged the Xbox.
No.
So I lost like 2 hours and I was like, I think I'm just done.
Oh, that's an aggressive move. Wait, when you say done with
I never beat Half-Life 2.
Oh, but you were still with the girlfriend for a little while.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's the thing of the past. But yeah, I was gonna say you can pull shit. That's almost like a symbolic pull of the plug. It's like, all right, I guess you're not feeling this, are you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were
I'm not looking for you to talk smack, but
4 years after that.
Okay. Did you ever pull that move again?
No, she did not. She understood that was a no-no.
That crossed the line.
She did not see. She saw how unhappy with that move I was.
Yeah, I don't think I would have appreciated that either.
Especially since it was just after. You played Half-Life 2? No,
actually.
Okay, well, there's a place called Ravenhold.
Okay,
I think it's Ravenhold. It's either Ravenhold or Ravenholm. Home. I can't talk. I also have a little minor congestion going right now. So
yeah, Florida is known for that, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a very difficult and intense area of the game, and I just got through it. And that's when she pulled the plug, and I was just like, "You've got to be kidding me."
That's a load. I don't like that. No, but honestly, most of my like lost save stuff and that kind of thing, lost progress, are pretty much all Grand Theft Auto related. Weirdly enough, I don't know why. It's not like I sat there and only played Grand Theft Auto, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it was just the lack of auto save in that day or whatever. Maybe I was playing a lot of sports games back in the day, and when you lose your progress there, it's not that big a deal. But yeah, that one. So
basically, what you're telling me is when you go to transfer your save from your PS4 to your PS5 version of GTA 5, you're going to lose your save.
I played it on PS3. So I had already
oh my god
kind of saved it away. Yeah, I got GTA 5 on PS3.
I got it on Xbox 360, but then I also played it on Xbox One, and now I'm going to play it on Xbox Series X.
So I played online on PS4, but I never said like I was going to go play the story mode again.
Okay.
On PS4, I was like, oh, I beat it already. I was hoping that I could transfer it over because I thought it'd be fun, but I'm like, well, they're not going to let me do that. I'm not gonna try. Again, I just beat this game. I know how long it takes, and it wasn't that long ago. So, so I kind of left that one behind. I do still have my PS3, so I can play it if I wanted to.
I think I do want to play the single player of GTA 5 again, but it's just a matter of with what time.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I've been saying how I've been playing Dying Light 2 because I refuse to play more than one giant open world game at a time. Then it's Horizon Forbidden West because I really want to play that. Then it's Elden Ring. And now, there's all kinds of games coming out right now. And I am falling so far behind because first I was in Vegas for DICE, which is a big development summit a couple weeks ago. I was home for 2 weeks, and now I'm in Florida. So it's like during that time, I'm either not playing games or I'm just playing on Switch. None of these games that I'm playing are on Switch. So it's like,
yeah, that's
I'm
good.
you know
what? It's a good thing to kind of take the break from that. I get kind of overwhelmed with too many, open world games like that. I do love the open world games, but they're so open and so long and they take forever now. It's like I have other games I want to play. I think in a perfect world, I would prefer like a Batman Arkham open world experience, which was like, it was sizable, but it was also manageable. And it had a narrative that you could wrap up in, 15-ish hours or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. That's like my sweet spot, especially because it's Batman and I love Batman, which by the way, I saw the Batman last night for the second time.
Again.
Yes, I did. Still hits. It's still great. But yeah, those are the games that I want. I want like 15 to 20 hours and then kind of be able to move on. I actually didn't realize that, and I don't know if this is an open world game necessarily, but Control, the one from a few years ago, it was like game of the year contender. I didn't realize that was a much shorter experience, because if I had seen that, I might have played it by now, but I made sure to download that. That might be the next thing I go to after. I kind of jump all over the place with the games I've been playing lately. So I abandoned Star Wars Squadrons. I'm not really feeling it. I don't know why I just couldn't get into it. I don't know if it's just that it's not that good or just it's not my thing, because I don't play a lot of, like, I guess flight simulators. Is that a fair term for this type of game?
Like aerial action, aerial combat. I don't know, like space combat.
Whatever the label is. So, it's just it didn't get me.
Fun fact about Control: I actually flew to Helsinki to help out with our cover story about Control. This was February 2019.
Okay.
And so it's at Remedy Entertainment, which is the company that did the first two Max Payne games. They did Alan Wake. So lots of great games coming out of that studio. Control being maybe my favorite out of all of them. I love the first two Max Payne games, but they haven't aged particularly well.
No.
Rockstar ended up buying the Max Payne IP and doing Max Payne 3.
I liked Max Payne 3.
Max Payne 3, yeah, but that's actually not from Remedy Entertainment. It's interesting.
Okay.
However, for Control, I actually recorded motion capture for that game that was not used. There was a different intro to that game that they were going to do, and we recorded my former coworker and I, Elise Favis. We recorded an opening sequence that was going to be like the opening cutscene of the game, and then they ended up not using it.
That sounds like a trick.
It might have been.
They were buttering you up.
They gave us very specific direction of what we were supposed to do, though.
Okay.
And then also we recorded some idle enemy animations. But you can actually...
So like what? Are they just playing cards or what?
No, like we're standing there, you're holding I think I was holding like a baseball bat or something like that, and it's just kind of like swaying a little bit, like enemies do when they're just like standing there waiting for you to come.
Sure.
And it was fun. It was interesting. I've never done like motion capture before, so that was like a super fun thing. And you could actually we documented it with YouTube.
Okay.
You can search that out. Not to go into shameless plug mode again, but that was
it's all right. Like, plug away.
Recording video and motion capture and everything. That was super fun. That was 3 years ago now at this point.
Yeah, time flies, especially in a pandemic.
I'll be dead soon.
Well, this got morbid, didn't it? So I'll bring it back to something a little more cuddly. I've been playing Crash Bandicoot 4 now, because I'm kind of on and off and playing that throughout, I guess, since it released 3 years ago.
Are you liking it?
I like it enough. It's actually it's harder than I kind of remembered Crash Bandicoot being even as a kid, because I guess I just expected games to be harder then, but I didn't expect they would still be hard now, or maybe this one just is challenging. I die a lot. It's a lot of trial and error. And then, you kind of you get past another part before a checkpoint. And then it's like, well, you're going to learn another thing that you kind of have to guess at rather than like patterns to figure out. So it was kind of tricky. But I think I only have 3 levels left in the game before I finish it. And then that'll be nice to kind of take that off the plate, get that off the drive and make a little space and then time for games like Control is probably going to be my next one when I'm not playing my SNES Classic for my kids.
What console are you going to play Control on?
PS5. I don't have an Xbox, so at home I have a PS5. I still have my PS4 and PS3, so I can always go back to those for one reason or another.
I was just going to make sure you were going to play it on PS5 instead of PS4 because I hear that the new gen versions they run so much better. Because that was a problem that I had with Control early on anyway when I was playing it on Xbox One, even an Xbox One X, which was like the higher end version of Xbox One. Like there were so many technical problems where it felt like the system, as powerful as that One X was, just couldn't handle it. And I've heard that the Xbox Series X and the PS5 version, and combined with all the technical improvements they did over the course of several patches after launch, made that a much better experience.
That's good to hear. So I'm playing on PS5. I have the version that they gave out with PlayStation Plus.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Ultimate Edition.
Okay. Yeah. So then good. That's good to know.
That means you get the DLC as well.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I'm down for all that. When you were talking about the situation there with kind of like the power being like kind of too far for even the system to handle it for whatever reason. I mean, I think we know why. It reminded me of Crysis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I had a buddy who had like a giant rig and it was like powerful, and our joke was like, yeah, probably in like 20 years you'll get this rig up ready to play Crysis.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing now is everything can play Crysis because didn't they just put out like a Crysis remastered collection or something?
I think a few years ago, maybe. Does that sound right?
I want to say it was a couple of years ago, like maybe like last year.
Was it even that? Okay, maybe.
I'm gonna look that up real quick. Not that it has any bearing on anything.
Sure. Yeah, I never played Crysis, but again, one of my buddies, he was all about PC gaming. He was the PC master race. I've never been a huge PC gamer. Like I would play the one PC game that I ever kind of really got gripped on because it was out before it hit console later was Mafia, the original Mafia.
I never played the original ones. Like
I loved it back in the day. I was all about it. When they put out the because it wasn't just remastered, they like remade the game for that one for recent consoles. And I played through it. It kind of almost still has the same hitches that were kind of problems then, gameplay wise. I don't know why, but it because they built it ground up. But I still enjoyed it. It was kind of a fun way to dip back into a story that I was familiar with and experience it in a different way. I liked it, but I'm probably more predisposed to it than somebody else.
Sure, yeah. I'm interested to hear your thoughts, but also like somebody who's never played its thoughts, because that would probably be more in line with somebody who's never played it. Because
don't know that they would give a great recommendation. I would say my guess would be it's like, yeah, it's fine. There's some technical, I don't think it's like technical glitches. It's just like, it's not as tight a gameplay experience.
Sure. But yeah, so I've never played really much of the Mafia series. I played a little bit of Mafia 3. I thought it was fine. I didn't really push through it, but
I think the early story levels offer a lot of promise. Like there's that early level in Mafia 3 where it's like kind of at like a theme park that's almost like the Bayou, and they tell story about like this like ghost man or whatever. I thought that was like a super cool way to experience it, but and I did appreciate the story at the heart of it. It kind of gameplay is whatever.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And yeah, it's one of those series that I always wanted to get into, especially being like a big Sopranos fan.
Yeah.
Like I want to get into like kind of like a game that doesn't, veer too close to the Sopranos story. Like, 'cause I hear the Sopranos video game is just garbage, but
I bet I believe that.
But like, that kind of like genre, like, all right, you like Sopranos, go watch The Godfather or Goodfellas or something like that. Like, that's kind of what I want. I want a video game equivalent of that.
I don't think we're ever going to get that is the problem. I was always hoping that, thinking of like prestige HBO shows, I was kind of hoping that there would be like a really strong experience with Game of Thrones. And we never really got that, did we?
There was a big rumor going around, and then somebody actually went so far as to make fake 3D assets for it and leak it, quote, leak it, saying that Bethesda was making a Game of Thrones game. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so in. And then it ended up being completely fake. And I was so upset when that happened. So I was like, dude, could you imagine like an open world Game of Thrones game like Bethesda would make? Like, just like take Skyrim, but make a Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I have to say, just observationally, it seems like as much as people like to, kind of make stuff up and make up rumors and that kind of thing in like the sports world or in the MMA world, the way it's done in the gaming world seems to be next level, because they'll do things like they'll create stuff, they'll create websites, they'll do all these things, and it's like, man, that looks cool. And like they really just mess with you. It's like, man, that's like cold-hearted.
When there was the leak of like the patent of the Switch, where it was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like a portable thing that has a screen, and then you can like play it on the TV or something. Somebody actually 3D printed a thing that looked like what the patent was describing.
Oh my God.
And took a picture. It's like, here's a leaked picture of like what the Nintendo Switch is or the Nintendo NX, it was called back then, what the Nintendo NX is gonna look like.
That was the code name?
Yeah, it was. So NX was the code name of the Switch. They even announced that when they announced a partnership with a mobile device. They were talking about like this whole Nintendo ecosystem of like, there's the NX, there's our mobile games that are going to be coming out, because they had a lot more ambition for mobile devices back then.
Which one was Dolphin back in the day? Was that GameCube? Yes,
that was GameCube. Okay. And then the Nintendo 64 was the Ultra 64. That was actually going to be the retail name, but then they changed it at the last minute to Nintendo 64.
I wish they kept that, actually. That'd have been cool.
Yeah,
N64 cool. Has a fun ring to it. I mean, we're just used to saying it for 25 years.
Do you remember the code name for the Wii?
No.
The Nintendo Revolution.
That would have been better than the Wii.
That's a cool name.
That's a cool name.
It ended up being true, because
I know
revolutionized gaming for a few years at least.
Nintendo does things different, man. They just do.
They really do.
But I think I interrupted your story. You were talking about the Nintendo Switch and the NX and the name and everything.
Oh yeah, so I'm just giving examples of like how people do go next level. They go all in on like trying to fake out people. Like, Did You Know Gaming is a big YouTube channel that I love to follow, and like they always post like hidden gems of like knowledge that you would never come across in a million years. But like, it's just all these like did you know facts about like your favorite games and favorite franchises and everything. And I will go down rabbit holes on that channel, and like you learn all these things of like, sometimes they'll just do like, did you know gaming's like here are the top ways that like developers have tried to combat piracy. And I think there was one that was like Saints Row, where it would like spawn like infinite spider bots, and they would just kill you if you tried to play a pirated version. It would detect the pirated version of the game was being run, and they would just kill. They would just murder you with that.
I like that.
And then with like, but anyway, they've done like, did you know, like fake leaks or like, ways that like gamers are trained. People just go all out. There was also one where like Super Smash Brothers, when they were still putting out downloadable content, somebody leaked that Rayman was going to be in the game.
Okay.
And they went through the whole process of like deconstructing the roster select screen in 3D models.
Oh my God.
And then creating a fake Rayman 3D model, and then putting him right where he would appear in the time, like the chronological character select screen. And it looks so real. And then like, I think like 3 or 4 days afterwards, he put out like, here's how I made this fake leak. And everybody was like, oh, it's not real.
That is commitment. There is a certain level of commitment that I have to admire, as much as it's like, come on, why are you spreading disinformation? It's like, you know what? Respect the game. Respect the game.
Exactly.
But you know what, Brian? I think that's our show for this week. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe to this show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Google, wherever you found us. That helps our show grow. And while you're at it, would you kindly follow our social handles at Brian P. Shea and at Scott_Fontana on Twitter and Instagram, but me mostly Twitter.
I'm over having a good old time on Instagram, but also Twitter. Be sure to hit me up if you have any questions, and always let us know when you have feedback, topics, all kinds of stuff. We would always love to hear what you're thinking, what you want to hear us talk about. We're here for you.
Hit us up by email, groundandpwnedpod@gmail.com, or on Twitter @groundandpwned. Till then, enjoy the fights, enjoy the games, and we'll talk to you next week.